Postman is used to create, manage, and also test the APIs. Okay. So whatever APIs we are going to create, REST APIs. Okay. Just a second, guys. My throat is not well today. So whatever APIs we are going to create, we are going to talk about not the SOAP APIs. We are going to talk about the REST APIs. This is the most in used in today's time because it is most you know easy to get hands on for all the backend developers. You can simply make all the logics over here, which is not possible. There were some limitations in Swagger and Soap. So that is the reason why people have now moved on to REST APIs. And the library that we usually use in automation, okay, to automate the validation of REST APIs is via REST assured. Okay, REST assured. Now, what is REST assured? REST assured, if you haven't heard it so far, and if you are listening this for the very first time, then you have to be, quite, you know, aware about the technologies in the same profession that you are in. I mean, if you haven't even heard about the REST assured part, I mean, what exactly are you doing with your career? I really don't know. But rest assured is basically an API similar to Selenium. Now, Selenium is used for UI automation. Okay, it is used for UI automation. Okay, similarly, there is one more which is Vinium. Okay, Vinium. This is used to automate the OS applications. Okay, like your VLC and all those things. But this is not the real bread and butter of the market. The real bread and butter of the market is either Selenium or manual testing. Now, then comes the expertise into, you know, uh, Postman and backend testing. Okay. Above Postman comes the rest assured part. But now Postman is what? What is Postman? Postman is a tool that has been created by a company in Bangalore. Okay, and you should be very proud that you know this company really got good funding. They have got their seed fund long ago, and then now they are nurturing themselves into a complete independent organization, which can support the creation of backend REST API logics, and you can also test them inside the Postman itself. Then it is also giving you reports. Okay, so creation, testing, and reporting, everything is managed in Postman these days. Okay, also you can create your automatic validations. There is one tab which is a tests tab. So tests tab is there in Postman, and if you'll click on this tab, we'll go to that particular thing later, guys. Okay, but for now, it will be more of a board session because see, if I directly, take you to Postman and start explaining you what is global variable, how you put your headers, and how you do things over there, you will not be able to understand, or maybe you will be able to understand the incomplete knowledge. First of all, you have to understand how really the backend logic works, how really the application is integrating with the backend logic, and it is triggering what all events that the user wants to trigger at runtime. Okay, how does the two pages having some input output relationship is getting connected over a web. Okay, so these kind of things are important for you to learn. Then again, some basics related to what are the different calls, and then what are the different codes. Okay, so maybe at least, like 3 to 4 hours I would be needing to at least make you understand what is what is the universe of backend. Okay, and how does that really work? How does, if you are working in any organization and you are a UI tester, You are a UI automator, UI manual tester, you know. See, guys, there is one thing. If you guys are, manual testers, okay, so you call yourself manual testers, very, very much fine. It's okay. I mean, I do not want to comment on that. How much you know, how much you don't know. You test this by yourself only. You know, you can do your performance. There is only one thing, that is security testing, that you cannot do in the scope of manual testing, because this is under penetration testing, and you need to know Linux machines, how the network works, and it's a completely different thing. But performance is something which can be added into your CV. Okay, I'm so sorry. Performance is something which can be really added into your CV if you know how to, use JMeter, and how does the load really is, how does the reporting works there, how to put load, how many threads to put, and the framework, a little framework over there, how exactly that framework works provided by this tool, is something which will be important for you to know. And also, along with this, blaze meter you will use for, you know the basic record of end-to-end flow. And this blaze meter, what it does, this blaze meter is just recording the APIs that are hitting at the backend while the user is exercising the user experience. Okay. Now, this performance is something which will be an added advantage in your CV if you call yourself a manual tester. Manual testing does not only mean that you should only know Jira, or you should know UI validations part. That doesn't only you know that doesn't sums up to manual testing part. There is database also. Usually, what do? Usually you verify or validate your database via your UI only, right? You are validating your database via your UI, right? Why you are doing that? Because you do not have the database access. Why you do not have the database access? Might be you have the database access, but I tell you something, that there are different scenarios. Okay, there is QA environment. Before this, there is development environment. Then there is UAT environment. In fact, before that, there is stage environment. Then there is UAT environment. Okay, and then there is your production environment. Okay, now the database is maintained differently for development, for QA, for staging, for UAT, and for production. Then there is no issue, right? Then you can get the access of QA environment database, and you can do whatever queries you want to apply on this QA environment database, right? But see, getting the database infrastructure on a VM, or taking different space in that particular infrastructure. When I say infrastructure, okay, maybe my net is lagging. Okay, so when I talk about infrastructure, okay, it simply means that you have to focus on, you know, the data center. Okay, the data center. Now, what is data center? Let's say there is one company, Sifi or Amazon or whatever. I mean, whatever big company you want to name, you can name it. Now, these people have, big, machines, and, big facilities, which is, having routers, switches. Okay. Then these switches are also divided into dedicated switches. Okay. And then some will be having the shared switches. Okay. What do you mean by dedicated and shared switches? When you talk about dedicated switches, it simply means that whatever infrastructure facility you want, it will be hosted on a particular switch, which will be only dedicatedly serving your application, and it is not going to utilize any, the same space with any other application. Now, in shared switches, in shared switches, what will happen is that, there are multiple applications that are running on the same switch, and the same memory and the same RAM and the same facility of infrastructure is used by multiple applications. Now, what is the drawback of this? The drawback of this is that when multiple applications are run on a shared switch, the performance gets hampered. Okay. The page will get loaded after, and it will take more than usual time, right? So if you have a dedicated switch for your application, what do you think? Amazon is running on a dedicated switch or a shared switch? You hit amazon.in, you go and see how many pictures are there. You go and see how many, information, how much information it is processing on the home page itself. But still, if you just go and go, just do amazon.in, how many seconds? Only milliseconds it's taking. What do you think? Is it a dedicated switch or a shared switch? It's a dedicated switch, of course. The performance is better there, and the performance tuning is also better there, right? Today I'm doing performance testing, okay, and my page is lagging. Might be there is no issue with my application, might be there is some other application that is hitting on the same shared switch at the same point of time, and lot of user load is coming from these all applications, and that is the reason my performance is not getting lagged. What will my developer do in this case? There is nothing that my developer can solve here, right? So this is how your database is divided into different environments. Okay. And these environments are ultimately hosted over a network, but this is costly, right? If you want a dedicated switch for your application and you want to maintain database for production also, which will be huge, okay, which will be huge, and it will be real time addition of more data, okay, via the original public, okay, then you will also have, just a second guys, yeah, so you will also have your staging and UAT sharing one database only. Okay, staging and UAT stay sharing one database, and this is having limited access, and this is having limited access to the client, the PMOs, okay, and the BAs to test whatever testing they want to do on stage on UAT. Let's say there is no dedicated database given to QA side. There is one database that is shared by development unit and the QA unit, so that whatever bug I am producing at QA level, the same database is visible on development level as well. But then there will be a lot of ambiguity in this process, right? So that is the reason, rather going in and deep diving into database testing and giving the access to the junior engineers or the entry level engineers or engineers with less experience, they simply ask that you simply validate the database using the UI itself. And whenever you get anything that is getting disrupted, you can validate it via you know the network tab or the dev tools. If you see something fishy, just get us that particular thing and we will see if it is really reproducible in dev environment. And the developers are going to check in their own local environment, of course. But once it is hosted and the QA is a pass, and then I'm getting something which is not working in staging or UAT, I cannot use the same database in UAT now to check it. I have to create a new user entry with the same, you know, uh, flow of the user that has been created in staging and UAT, right? To reproduce it in QA, right? So these kind of small things will be something which will be a story of every organization part that you are going to be a part of course. Big organizations are not worried about the infrastructure cost. They are more worried about the quality of the application that they are going to deliver. There you will have you might have, or you may have, or you must have your database, individual database for different environments, right? Now database and JMeter and security is something which you cannot do. Now if you will add, Jira is something you already know now, okay, you have done your database testing. Now if you will add up along with JMeter, which you will add in your in your resume later, but let's say that if you will add API testing as well, okay, then you become a what do you become? A full stack manual tester. Okay. So this is for those who have some, you know, ambiguity in their mind that what all comes under manual testing scope and what all not. Because guys, see, a lot of people in the market, why I'm telling you this, because a lot of people in the market has having some confusion that this is not even a part of, manual testing. Postman, Jira of course, but then JMeter and all this. This is all a part of manual testing. Whenever you get a story, you should always test the performance of that particular, you know, just a second, guys. Okay, so whenever you get a story or anything to test, you will first you will test the functionality of it. Then you will do some database testing that whether my database is getting correct or not, right? Then you will do the API testing as well. Whatever APIs has been getting triggered, you have to check those APIs as well, because see, there has been two developers from the development unit that has been working on this particular story. One is the front end developer who has created the front end UI and UX, and then there is a back end developer who is creating the back end logic which is connecting and integrating the front end pages, right? So you have to check the work done by the back end engineer as well. You cannot avoid this work done by him. So how will you check? Usually if you do not have the API testing knowledge, then you check it using the network tab. Okay, that if any API is getting failed, I will make sure that my developer gets a notification about it via a bug or whatever way you want to notify that person. Okay, any junk API is getting hit, or it is getting some 404 error or 400 error or 500 error. 500 is even bigger. So now we will understand what is the error family, and we will understand what are the different error codes, all important error codes that can be asked in the interview. We will cover all that, but right now focus on this part that I'm trying to tell you, because it is very difficult to tell you, to teach you things in a form of a story, and then in some way in the middle, if get your concentration here or there, then the complete story is of no understanding will be developed, or maybe if it will be developed, it will be incomplete. Okay, so please pay attention over here, that these front end and back end developers are going to create a complete logic for you, and they are going to push it to the QA environment for you to test. So far you might be testing it, or you might not even be testing it via network tab. That also you will see how we do it later. But then you know so far you are either testing it via network tab, or you are testing it the API via UI tab. Okay, now you have to first understand the complete logic, how the backend you know really works, so that you can really test and understand the communication between the two parties. Okay, so for that you have to first understand that what is API. Okay, API, full form of API is what? Application programming interface, right? But what it really does, it simply is this API is a medium. Okay, it is a medium of communication. Okay, and this is exactly what you have to tell in the interview as well. Okay, that it is a medium of communication between whom? Between two parties. Who are those two parties? One is the producer, and the other one is the consumer. Okay, now when I talk about producer over here and consumer over here, I simply mean that whenever I'm saying producer, I simply mean the one, you know the one, just a second, guys. Yeah, the one who provides data. Okay, and here it is the one who consumes data. Okay, this is the one, the producer is the one जिसने data provide किया है, the one who is the data provider, and the one who is consuming the data for whatever purpose and doing whatever this consumer wants to do with the data. Okay, is the one who consumes the data and is called as a consumer. Okay, in other words, this producer is called as server. Okay, and this consumer is called as a client. Now you get it? So the communication between the server and the client, okay, the communication between the data provider and the communication and the data seeker, okay, these both will communicate with each other using the API logic. Okay, so this is what which is very important for you and your brain to understand that API is nothing but the communication between the server and the client. Okay, API is only that part. Okay, now let's talk about the Selenium. Okay, Selenium thing. What is Selenium? Selenium, we always say that Selenium is also a API. Okay, now you know, let's say this is a consumer. Okay, and this is the producer. Okay, this is the producer. Now this consumer and this producer are going to communicate using the API, of course, right? Now, what is the consumer's demand? Consumer's demand is to handle alerts. Consumer's demand is to, open Chrome. Okay, open Chrome. Okay, so the producer says that, okay, fine. Let's say the producer is what? The Selenium is our producer over here, right? Selenium API is our producer. Now, Selenium API says, forget about what I'm doing inside, inside the logic to open Chrome window. Forget about everything. I give you one line, you know, web driver equals new Chrome driver. That's it, right? This is how you initiate. Okay, yeah, this is for Selenium 4. Okay, it will work. There is no need to use Bonnie Garcia API. There is no need to use any other system.set properties like old times. It will simply work. It will open your Chrome. You just have to do driver dot get, and whatever URL you want to paste it over here, you can paste it, and it will open the Chrome window, and it will get the you will reach the URL, whichever URL you have mentioned over here. Now, how does that really happen? Do you really ever bother about that? No, because Selenium says that you just simply use this particular way of calling a Chrome browser, or this particular way to handle alerts, or there is one select class that I have given to handle all the drop downs, select type drop downs, and there is one action class that I have given to move to element and then click and move to click on element and then send keys. These are things I have given you in my library. You can simply use them and just forget about how that works. But only thing you really should know is how exactly it works, where exactly you need to use it, and how you need to code those APIs, those libraries that has been provided by Selenium, how you have to use them, you know and what are the strategies you will be having to tackle situations or scenarios where you are not able to automate at all. Okay, so those are the part of your concentration for now, right? But Selenium is doing the interaction and with the browser and doing things with just a simple one line of code for you, right? Have you written this API? No. Have you done the, inside engineering? No. But when you will use this, you will simply be called as a consumer of this API, not the producer of this API. Okay, you are just asking this API, like say, the same thing. If you will ask the producer, which is Selenium 3 WebDriver, okay, if you will ask this particular producer to launch a Chrome window, and then get this URL by these two lines, it will not do, because there you will need your Bonnie Garcia connection and your system.set property connection. One of them, either of them, you can use. Okay, there you will use that to communicate with this particular API, whatever library it has given. But for this one, it has solved the, all effort and all pain it has solved. So that is why we always say that, whenever the technology is updated, the resource of a previous technology is always preferred. Why? Because this resource will have complete knowledge of what all has been falling short in this particular technology. This resource have complete knowledge of it. And whatever life has been made easy using the new technology, okay, that particular change in the new technology which can only be best used by the person who was suffering from the, from where the previous technology was falling short. And now this has been corrected. If in the new technology, this guy who was working with the previous technology will have the complete command and can make the best use of the updates in the new technology, right? And that is why your experience is important for your interviewer before the interviewer hires you. Okay, that is why, answers are similar. You will ask someone who will, you know questions will be similar. I'm so sorry. Yeah, questions will be similar if you ask smoke testing to someone who is having, 2 3 years of experience or 4 years of experience, and someone who is having 10 to 15 years of experience. You will have, if the questions will still be same. What is smoke? But the answers will be different according to their experience. Okay, the answers and the cross questioning will be different. It will be way higher than the entry level engineer. Okay, so now similarly, let's talk about some other genuine API and the market, thing. Let's discuss that. Let me see if, okay, everything is fine. Okay, this is again. Okay, now let's talk about, one application. First of all, see guys, you have to understand that whatever communication is happening, this can also happen inside one single application as well. Just not, let's talk about, anything else. Let's talk about one single application. One single application. Let's talk about Book My Show. Okay, Book My Show. Now, what is Book My? Why I'm taking this example? Because I have taken this example to make you understand a lot of other logics, so we'll be able to relate it. So, Book My Show is having one which is admin, okay, and then this is portal, okay, and then there is POS, okay. So, this admin creates the event, okay. Creating the event is happening at admin level. Now, event or movies, whatever it is, okay, event or movies. Now, this admin part, when it creates the movies, by creating, what I mean is that the whole map of the theater is also uploaded at this level. The, schedule, when exactly the show timings will be beginning and when it will be ending, how many shows will be there, how many sessions will be there in one day, okay, how many people will be allowed in that theater, okay, or there will be, COVID restrictions that you cannot allow, one seat after the other, you have to kill. So these killed seats cannot be again purchased by the, you know people who are using the, the same, you are buying the same movie via portal or POS. Now, what is POS? POS is something which is, you know an application which has been used by someone who is sitting at the point of sale at theater location. You must have seen, right? Where you collect your ticket and you go and get the entry check, right? There, that person, that very person, is validating your ticket using what? Using the barcode or whatever ways, right? But where exactly the guy is validating if the ticket is right or not? On the POS application. And the POS application UI will be different from the portal application, which will finally be used by the end user, which is you and me, right? This is finally be used by you and me, right? So this is the complete integration of one single thing that has been created and published at admin level and is populated on portal and POS as well, right? So now let's say that your admin application is having this integration, and this communication between these two application has to happen. Then how it has to happen? It has to happen via the API logics only, right? Let's say you want to, you are at POS also, at individual application level also, okay? At individual application also, even if you are clicking on print ticket, okay, even if you are clicking on this, then also there is one communication happening. There are two parties involved now. If you will click on print ticket, there are two parties involved now, your application and the printer itself, right? So once that is printed, the payload, the JSON payload information, we'll talk about it in some minutes now, what is JSON payload and all, okay? So the moment you will go from this app to this printer, and then the printer when prints, there is some payload that is getting updated, that if the print ticket happened or not, and that particular attribute, or the key, that is having the information of how many times this ticket has been printed, has a validation that not more than 3 times it should be printed. So if that particular, key and value pairing, this is how your JSON looks like, key and value pairing, it really works like this only. So let's say I am saying number of prints is the key and the value is 1, then it is all fine. Then you print it twice, it's all fine. The third time you print it, now you cannot print it fourth time, it will show you error. Whatever error handling the developer or the requirement says, as per that requirement, the developer has done the error handling, that you cannot book, you have already uh, you have got 3 prints of this ticket, or you have you know done with all the maximum number of tickets that can be printed over this, and you have overloaded the number of chances, okay? Now you cannot print more tickets. So whatever error handling will come up on the screen, that is something which is related to the requirement. Let's not focus on that. Let's focus on the API part. Okay. So this is how, even in the application, internal application, intra application also, the logic is getting communicated via APIs. Okay. Now let's talk about what exactly is an API. Okay. uh, let's talk about let's say you have created one sum method, okay? Or let's say you have created one public, okay? And int sum you have created, and inside this you have int x and int y, like this you have, okay? And inside this you have some integer z you have taken, and then you are simply doing nothing but x plus y is what you are doing, and then you are doing return, because this is the return type, okay? Remember, so you are just simply doing, okay, return, and you are returning z like this, okay? And that's it, right? Now this is what, this is your method, right? This is your method, simple method, okay? Now this method when this method is used by some other, you know, program or function, okay, and you are calling in this particular function, you are simply calling sum, and then you are saying that, 50 comma 60, like this you are doing, okay, and whatever console result is coming, let's say 110 is coming because you have used this whole part of the whole, you need not to worry about, how this is really working, how this some logic is really working. You can simply call this whole, method with just one single line, right? So that is what we are doing when we were creating our generic methods. Remember, in Selenium also, when you create your generic methods, what exactly you are doing? You are creating your own library of element utilities, right? You are creating your own library to handle weights, right? In Selenium. So there also what you are doing, you are creating your own API set, which you will use this, but not in a hosted way, but you will use these small, small APIs to do big things, right?